Hello, everyone. Welcome to Smart Company, the podcast. Today's guest on the show is Doug Green. Doug is a distinguished voice in the tech and media landscape, serving as the publisher and editor of Technology Reseller News. I also would like to introduce, of course, Grace Schroeder. She is our resident tech expert, and she joins us in every show. So, Grace, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And I want to point out that I'm a psych major, Doug. So when he says tech expert, it's self-taught and by defense that I learned technology because, you know, at some point you have to. Yeah. Well, if you're going to do anything.
You're in good company.
Yeah.
I studied economics and history, not technology. Well, I studied technology within the context of history, but not like all the tech guys.
And I think that context adds, you know, if you're very narrow focused on just on tech, you lose some context. So
right.
Clearly we have some very distinguished guests on the show today. So Doug, tell us a little about your digital news site, how it got started, and why it's a must read for anyone in the communications technology industry.
Well, I'm going to immediately date myself as if I didn't have to anyways. So our publication actually goes all the way back to a print era in 1989, when the really cool thing was you could buy a used PBX. That was the neato thing that we were doing, and there was a need to reach out to the enterprise community. So the continuity in our publication over 30 years is we still serve the large enterprise. We also now serve carriers and service providers, MSPs, and MSSPs, and so on. But yeah, now we're a 100% digital publication, and podcasts and videos and so on are probably our number one way to communicate, or content provided way to communicate to people. And things such as LinkedIn are really in a way now eclipsing email, I think, in terms of how we reach audiences quickly and efficiently.
It's quite clearly some changes from 1989 to the present day.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. Speaking of those changes.
And the Menendez brothers were convicted in 1989.
That's a very good. And I'm glad you brought that up, and Dave, I'm glad you brought up that perspective, because there's one thing that hasn't changed since 1989. It'll be still true in 2089. The laws and rules of economics are unchanging. Also, human behavior is unchanging. So in as much as things have come and gone, each wave of technology change is very similar to the next. It's not history repeating itself or anything. It's just that human behavior remains same. And the laws of economics, how companies combine and then they rise and fall and so on, that kind of doesn't change over time.
So are you talking specifically about the human behavior of sort of risk avoidance, change avoidance, those sorts of things?
Exactly. In other words, what occurs, I mean, we've all seen the groovy Gartner charts and the other charts and the skidoo going up and down and so on. But however you want to call it or slice it, yeah, there's a cycle. There are people that adopt a new technology very early on. Since no one's done it before, lots of people are out there trying different models. So you'll literally have a club of 100 companies sort of doing the same thing. And interestingly enough, within months or years, you end up from 100 or maybe even 1,000 companies down to something that's more like 3 or 4 companies, and eventually almost down to 1. So we go from a very competitive market to sort of an oligopoly to sort of a monopoly, and then all of a sudden it becomes replaced by something else.
Yeah, and you know, I think what we're seeing, because we've been developing bespoke solutions for over 10 years now. So we take pretty much any idea that somebody has or any automation need, and we use our platform to create this bespoke automation they need. So we have run into that for a while. Like, people are accustomed to buying a off-the-shelf application, and they're like, well, what are the features? And we come to them with a different value prop and say, you know what the feature is? We're going to automate actually what you need automated, instead of selling it this big monolithic thing that's going to do 100% of the things you're going to pay for, or you're going to use 5%.
Right.
And so it has been a struggle, you know, but with AI coming out, it's sort of forcing that push through to something different, you know, a different approach, because you can't just do the vendor parade anymore and go, yeah, I'll just do Salesforce. Great. Start pricing out the license stack you need to throw AI in there, and then shoot yourself in the head, because you'll never get it done. So I'm encouraged by the fragmentation that I think is going to happen. I think it's great. I think it's great that we'll have a lot more smaller companies closer to a domain than
Right.
Microsoft or Google or Sage or whatever, throwing off the shelf stuff that's supposed to hit all uses. I think it's great. It'll be great for business.
So, Doug, it's not every day that we get to talk to someone who goes back as far as 1989. So, obviously you've been covering, and Doug, maybe.
Wait, was that a compliment, Dave?
I'm 752 years old, yes.
Oh my
You
gosh.
look great, Doug.
Not
Boy.
bad for mummy, yes.
Doug is calling from the Dagobah system, and thanks for coming
Yeah,
in here.
I am AI generated. I actually passed away a long time ago. So.
Imagine how much money I could save on anti-aging cream.
Yes.
What I meant to say is you're a tremendous
It's okay. There's no awkward. It's always awkward when you deal with age, but I beyond ego and so on, it's fine with me.
Same.
Yeah, the conversation's been over. Like, am I old or not? That's been settled.
Here's you get to the point where at the airport or other occasions like that, someone wants to actually do something for you, and you're fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Can I help you put that bag into the overhead bin?
I mean,
right
I did
here,
my
sir.
share out of that stuff, so it's okay.
You're an
It's
angel.
my turn, so that's good.
Yeah.
No problem. No ego. It's easy, so it's fine.
So, as we mentioned, you've been covering telecom and IT for decades. How would you compare the potential impact of AI on the industry compared to other transformative shifts you've seen over the years?
Yeah, AI seems to be, despite the fact that it's huge. So let's back up for a second. Where AI is different than maybe the other major things that occurred over the years, at least in my little sector, was from the beginning, our publication was always niche-y. That's trade journalism, right? So in other words, what a niche is all about is, for example, we have advertisers that sell session border controllers. And I think maybe there's, 8 billion people in the world. Maybe only 80,000 people actually wake up and say, I need to go and buy some session border controllers, right? It's a very niche market. AI, so everything we've reported over 30 years has always been for a very specific, peculiar group of people. AI, of course, is everywhere. Every human being on Earth potentially could be using it. So that is significantly different than most people still don't know what ISDN was. It stood for I still don't know.
I knew how to
Inside
configure Ascend pipeline routers for a day trading firm in the 90s in LA.
Right.
For trading over ISDN.
And Grace, I'm glad you said that, because that's the other thing that's happening with AI. The other revolution that's happening concurrently with AI is, it's been happening for a while. There's no silo, right? The fact that everything is being done in the cloud has already, in advance of AI, we've already erased the silos. So the distinction between all that groovy stuff that you'd put on traders' desks and all the very specific type of equipment you needed here or there, it still may kind of exist a little bit, but it's more and more out there in the cloud. It's more and more just an app being run on some server somewhere, right? Now here comes AI. I think I like what Grace just said. It has some unprecedented qualities, but also we see some patterns that we've seen before. And I'm going to pick up on what Grace said earlier. Let's think about AI in the politics of a large legacy company. The people in control of a large legacy company are making good money on the legacy products. So they're prone to basically guard that technology. And they're less opt to basically say, you know what, let's kill this old technology, completely replace it with an AI thing. Whereas some upstart company is rethinking the whole thing. So, we overuse that word native born, but I have a feeling we're going to see native born companies, native born inside the AI ocean, emerge and put together things like CRMs. Grace is nodding her head, so
I looked at I saw an article and I shared it with our team about ERP and CRM and how, hey, you know what, the new CRM, and we've been pounding this drum for a while, and in part because it's self-serving, because it's what we do. Mm-hmm. The new ERPs and CRMs are going to be a collection of great tooling. It's not going to be one monolith. It's going to be and so that's what we do is we tie together all those various things so that it behaves as one platform, but you can plug and play this stuff when it becomes outdated or if there's something better. And this gets to like my other favorite topic, which is the renewal process for software as a service right now, because they are dying to lock you in for 3 years
Right.
to give them a chance to figure out how they're going to respond to the competitive threats that are coming out every single day. I mean, if I was a true software as a service company with just a sort of an off-the-shelf product, I'd be crawling under my covers every day going, what came out today that's going to kill me?
And let's stay on that for a second, because there's an economic theory here, right? Which is, think about the model of the record album, and now think about the model of just simply getting your music on some app. One basically says, I'm just going to sell you what you use, right? Theoretically, I just want to listen to those 4 songs just again and again, versus having, in the old days, we used to go and buy an album and have to make her through 10 songs for the 2 songs we wanted or something, right? But the old model was favorable to a lot of people, right? So there's a sustainability issue here. Will companies find it difficult to sustain their R&D, their margins, their payroll, everything, in a model where they're just, to Grace's point, just selling just a little bit of something, right? Just a little bit of use.
Well, look, year over year, I think I saw Salesforce is down 30% their stock. Atlassian is down 50%. Workday is down somewhere in between.
Right.
I think they all, and then everybody's trying to, I'm going to acquire a bunch of stuff. It's not going to work, I don't think. I don't think the old thing works. Dynamics went out and bought a whole boatload of stuff and just printed the name Dynamics on top of it.
Right.
And you can't smash together this stuff the way you used to be able to before AI, because AI needs it to behave in a certain way with good data. So that the old, the old habit of I'm going to assemble a bunch of stuff from the innovators used to work. It's not going to work this time, I don't think.
And no one, predictions in the AI era is kind of a folly, but I mean, what do you think these walls are going to crumble when the legacy, the old systems finally, they give up, they stop buying albums, and they start subscribing to Spotify? When do you think that day is?
I think it's right now. Salesforce is a trusted client of ours, on and off. They're a fine company and so on, but here we see. Am I right, Grace and Dave? Am I correct in saying, is it possible that people might be able to sort of create their own Salesforce? Is that really right?
Today?
Is that possible?
You couldn't tell AI, go copy Salesforce and come up with anything usable.
Right.
Today, AI coding is great and it can accelerate certain things, but it's not really good enough to create a platform of that girth, right? It's still, and I'm not a computer architect, I'm not a software architect or anything like that. So, but can you today build what you need 100%?
See, that's it.
And it's going to be way cheaper and way more adaptable. And you're going to have a team of people, because I don't think you're going to just buy things and go away and hire a Salesforce administrator. You have to keep up with what's going on. So I think that my view is that internal development teams will partner with companies like ours for acceleration, and that internal resources need to get comfortable co-working with agentic automation. They need to know how to define, deploy, adapt those agents for their specific use. And so the humans, to your earlier comment, need to come along with this.
Yeah, well, and Dave, this is, I'm glad Grace just said that, because in the podcasts I did this very week and last week, I'm here, I got the chance to interview frontline people. So in other words, I normally interview the guys that do the technology for the contact center. finally got to interview some people that actually staff the contact centers. The frontline conversations were really interesting because here was a law firm, as an example. Some law firm out there decided, hey, I know, and some junior partner said, I know how I'm going to make my name, right? I'm going to fire all the people I'm going to fire all the humans, and I'm going to have AI bots answer the phone. It didn't work. Why? Well, because if I'm paying $600 an hour for legal advice, I probably want at least, I may not get the lawyer on the line, but when I'm calling, you know that I need some $600 advice, and I don't need a robot talking to me, right? That didn't work. It wasn't that AI has no role to play at that law firm. It's that, and you guys have been asking me, like, what hasn't changed since whatever, right? The misuse and misappropriation of technology. We've seen this, guys. Am I right? Haven't we seen this movie like again and again?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we've just, this is nothing new. This is 40 years ago. We don't need we can automate the receptionist. Okay, so therefore let's not have a receptionist. Therefore let's create an electronic moat around the company, right? And then let's have a recording say something insulting like, we love you.
Yeah.
We are real words. We are really into customer service, etc.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then if you listen to the recording of what the people are saying while they're on hold.
Oh my God. Right. And the abuse of these technologies, like, in other words, not only am I going to waste your time, because here's the other thing that's changed, guys. 40 years ago, 30 years ago, the phone was a different type of communication. It was a more sort of daily, even hourly form of communication. When I am calling Delta Airlines now, when I am calling my attorney, when I'm calling the accountant, when I'm calling, the school, right, the local school, it's a high priority communication. I have already we have all done this, right? Oh my gosh, what's happening with my bank account? Wait, what's happening? I've already been online. I've already exhausted my online tools. I've already talked to the chatbot, and that didn't work.
I'm angry.
Right, I'm already out of my mind, right? Now you're going to not only tell me how beautiful they love me and so on, but you're going to try to sell me a cruise, or I don't know,
the worst yet is you're going to empathize with me. It's I don't want your empathy. Your empathy is taking me time.
Oh, darn it, right? And I'm being polite here, right? So guys, this is to me the unchanging thing. In other words, where Dave started was, and all these conversations with AIs, hey, we're living through a great revolution. It changes everything. But the laws of economics are unchanging. Why did I go and engage that law firm? What am I paying them for? Right? Why do I have to pay them $600 or whatever it is per hour? Right? What am I expecting back? I bought I don't know. Here's another example. You buy a dryer from General Electric. What are you expecting from when I call? I bet it's because the darn thing isn't working. Right? The refrigerator that I just bought isn't working. The very expensive car I just purchased is malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. Those phone calls are not love notes. I'm not calling up GE and saying, I just love you guys. I just want to tell you.
I got nothing better to do than love you.
Yeah, right? The contact center has dynamically changed. We are now, we use text. We use it's multimodal, right? We are using many forms of transportation to get that conversation going. AI does have a place. I love what Grace said earlier, and that's what I'm hearing from everybody, which is if AI is being a ride-along. So now, here's Dave. He's the agent. Dave works at Delta. And Dave, this is a beautiful call, right? If Dave, who works for Delta, says, hey, Doug, I see you're going to Pittsburgh. I see that the flight's delayed. Is that why you're calling? And thank you for being a gold member or whatever, right? Hey, I'm now calming down a little bit. They know who I am. They kind of know what I'm trying to do. They're doing their best. Maybe it's about something else, but I'm not a stranger. And I'm starting to feel that there's some value to the money I spent on the airline, even though they're not taking me anywhere yet.
It's really a balancing act, because I think as we move forward, on one hand, the human contributions to the chain of actions that we'll be engaging with is kind of, they're eager to replace it. But on the other hand, I think the human component, the real human, and that experience that only a human can give to another human will be increasingly valued.
Right.
And, I think people will seek out more human experiences while trying to harness the power of artificial intelligence to help along with the functionality component of it. Speaking of warriors,
hopefully it can individualize, to Doug's comment, the experience more, So, hey, I travel a lot. Chances are, if I'm calling you on the phone, I know, and if I can tell you exactly how to fix this problem, which is, hey, I rerouted, can you reestablish my upgrade without me, having to, and they're like, no, we can't. Okay, yes, you can, and here's how you do it. So don't take me through these whole trees of, hey, blah, blah, blah. Like, you should get me somebody on the phone now, because I don't need I don't need your empathy. I just want you to, you haven't interfaced all the machines necessary to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. So I need a human interface that can go do that, and can you get me to the right one? And that's,
you talk to the chat by like human, and then you get some not the most sharpest human. You're like, chatbot.
And let's remember, keep in mind what AI's amazing competitive advantages. Again, I'm leaning on economics for a moment. Where is it really super competitive? It's speed. It's the ability of AI to, for example, let's pick on Delta Airlines. The amount of information Delta must hold at any given time on where all of its planes are, crews are, it must be amazing how much stuff there is there. The ability of AI to gather all that information just like that and curate it just for Dave, so that the agent now, I know you're stuck in Milwaukee. I know it's snowing there. I know you want to get to, Miami. In other words, it's doing all that, and I also know all your preferences. Its ability to then deliver a solution that's curated for you, that must be amazing.
Yeah.
And let me throw in another community here, because all of us guys kind of live in a bubble, I think. I hope that doesn't hurt anyone's feeling. In other words, we travel here and there, but then we meet the same people. We all talk the same language. So here's another community. If you have had the experience of dealing with an aging adult, a parent who's older, who needs assistance and so on, that's a different planet. Everything that's happening, the services that are delivered, the services you might buy, the way that they answer the phone, that is a different planet, right? AI has the potential to help industries which are, in a sense, caught in the past, that struggle with communication. So I'll give you a live example. My mom has a person that comes by and assists her with bathing. She still lives in her own home. But I'm the communicator, because she doesn't answer the phone. She doesn't answer the phone because most of the calls that come through are not good, right? Which is another problem, right? Very vulnerable adult, bad phone calls, but a whole service system that relies on a communication system that's been very, let's say, challenged. Can AI help? I have a feeling it might be able to. Someone's going to come up with something that allows people in these situations to know, hey, this is a call I want, this is information I need to have, and so on. But you can also see the potential for abuse there too.
Yeah. Do you think, Doug, that because I spent 4 years at Quest, and that's how long I made it before I had to pull the ripcord.
You dated yourself a little.
I know. It's okay. I'm 62 and I'm happy about it. I don't have to do all that again.
Yeah.
But do you and I have kept up with some people, and I like, you made it out, but some people never made it out, and it doesn't seem in the 20 plus years since I've been gone that much has changed there in the mindset of like the sales people in that space. It's sort of like they're not getting that they need to retool,
No.
because hey, circuits, those are commodities. They're going to be on a marketplace someday, period. It's just a matter of time. And so the whole sales routine, the channel, all of that I think is open for reimagination as these new services come out, because a lot of that work is, I think, just going to go away,
Well, and again, and I'm glad you brought up Quest. Okay, let's start with Quest's. Quest's strengths were that they were trusted. In as much as they had problems and issues, and people would, when you're a key utility, there's always someone who hates you. Okay, let's
Yeah.
put that off to the side, right? Generally speaking, as new technologies rolled out, they were often people's first cell phone. They were, as the technologies came out, they were reliable.
They were the
enough.
first ones to do long haul voice over IP. They were the
Yeah.
first ones. I did organized the first, at the time it was the integration of hosted messaging and collaboration from Microsoft with our Solantra soft switch in 2003,
Wow.
Yeah. So, but they couldn't get it, I learned there, the first launch was a failure because the salespeople really weren't grokking the difference between voice over IP and traditional voice. So they just wanted to keep, and then we had to do this massive effort to, we even doubled sales comp, and it put 0 deals in the funnel,
Right.
which is rare. But that whole like backlash against that change even took years to overcome in the traditional sales organizations. Telecom.
Now let's stay with that though for a second, right? Through all that, there were underlining drives at Quest that had mostly to do with labor and labor costs, right? So large companies hate payroll, even though they have huge payrolls, because Wall Street hates payrolls. The investors hate payrolls. So again, we have the force of economics here, right? The force of economics compels large companies to try to either not have a payroll or to somehow hide the payroll by playing games with, we have contractors or whatever. But to your point, what occurred, and it occurred at Quest, it occurs right now at other companies we know and love. It's so contracted out that the customer is no longer dealing with the company. The company has lost its contact with its own customers. AI, I think, is going to drive up that temptation tremendously, right?
Yeah.
There's something else too that we talk about labor, and that is, this is my view of AI, where it is right now. It's similar to having, and we may have all had this experience, an extraordinarily brilliant young person who's just starting out working for us, who has 0 life experiences or judgment.
Yeah.
Almost at a toddler level, right? In other words, it's astoundingly brilliant, and then it can come up with answers or ideas which are like, but there's no judgment here, because it lacks at this point the human ability to compare, X and Y, or to understand subtleties, or in other words, it still requires some human judgment, which is another reason why I don't think you can fully automate these processes.
Yeah. No, we're big fans of the human in the loop part of the process, and even that, because we bring our clients' humans in, right, to be the human. We'll start by developing, we'll do the human in the loop review, but then we bring the clients' employees in so they can get accustomed to, like, this is how to manage a digital worker. This is what your job is now. You don't have to do the flipper flappers. You need to make sure that the machine is flipper flapping correctly. And it's a great, we have career paths and people in our company into the, AI QA department. Fantastic move for everyone.
Now, Grace, in your company, I'm sorry it's so natural for me to start asking questions.
It's okay.
But,
Go ahead, Doug.
right,
I do the same thing.
we're hearing a lot of people say that it's heard a lot that AI is gobbling up those entry-level jobs. The person comes out of college, and we've all been there, right? You get sort of a not expected kind of dreary back office job of entering numbers or some, but there's a method to that madness, right? The benefit you learn later is, oh, I physically understand what's happening.
It's intrinsic.
I can feel it in my bones.
Yep.
The ability to know, hey, no, this is a bad decision, based on physically knowing it. And it doesn't, retail, medical issue, whatever industry you want to talk about, right? That ability. I'll give you a bias. I've never liked the idea of how these companies sometimes, you have a guy that ran a bunch of hospitals. Well, let's put him in charge of a large mass retailer because he's a great CEO.
Or an airline.
I'm of the belief, right, or airplane manufacturer, right?
Right.
See how that worked. There's something to be said for having some of this in your bones somehow. I don't know how to describe it. That you eat and breathe and love airplane manufacturing, or selling stuff off the shelf because you're a merchant, or there's something lost.
Yeah, 100%. You will know things that are not knowable for other people.
Right, and
That
it's a
didn't
feel.
sit in your chair.
I don't even, and I guess someone might be able to argue AI is so incredible that maybe that human feel is not required. I don't know.
I'm sort of curious about it because my CTO has told me that he spends 2 to 3 hours talking with Google Gemini, and he feels like it's teaching him things that he didn't otherwise know and pointing him in directions he wouldn't have otherwise taken him on his own. And this is in the context of researching, our next steps and our evolution into the AI thing, because we're creating a whole, open source project around Slinger now.
Right. Well, let's stay with that, right? In other words, in the world of things, we know what we don't know and all that, right? The known and unknown, known unknown, and all that stuff, right? But here's an issue I might have with what you're observing there, right? It can also lead you down a corridor of information which may be correct, but you're not getting the nuances of what those experiences might be. So in other words, there's information and there's information. There may be things out there that seem like, oh, this is a successful idea, this was a creative idea, but why is it not being done now? Where's the historical data? What was the experience? What was the outcome? In other words, there's a probative process that a lot of people are not trained in. Like, for example, do you train your AI to show me 3 sources? Show me the quotes. Show me where the original material is coming from. Are we cross-examining when we're making decisions? It's one thing to get creative and so on, right? That's great, and for using AI as a kind of discovery tool. But as we all know, not all information is created equally. In other words, and keep in mind, as business managers, we're just sort of guessing about the future.
Yeah. Well, we tend to, like, at this juncture, we are aiming at the clear use cases for AI. Right. Just, we're not trying to diagnose cancer with an X-ray. We're trying to say, you know what? You have probably 50 people that do some function and they're all retiring. And they're the only ones that know how to flip or flap in and out of these 6 different things, and we need to automate. Now it can be. They tried in the past OCR, other scraping tools, and finally it makes financial sense to make the investment to solve it once with AI, because the AI doesn't take as much ongoing maintenance, change management, and all that stuff, because it can sort of figure out changes on its own. So the material improvements are there, and what we're trying to talk to companies about is like, look, just start somewhere. get a little pot of manual labor, tedious work that people don't want. Let's get 2 people to participate in the design of the agents, the roster of agents that we're going to build for you. They're going to be in charge of doing the QA stuff, because prompting, and I had this debate with our CTO, you can teach a non-developer how to prompt. So we have this woman who had never been a developer. She's our resource for prompt engineering now. The developers use her because she got so good at it. So I think for people of a certain type, there's some great new careers out there. I actually think for developers who are more curious than just writing code, now they have opportunities to directly impact business, business automation. They're talking to clients, they're learning new business domains. They're not just, it's just, the whole thing is getting much more efficient than the old waterfall, like, hey, all your requirements, parking lot, phase 1, 6 months later, something comes out that nobody can use and it costs $70 million. And I think those days are gone. And I think it's great.
Well, this is, I hope so.
We can make it so, Doug. We can make it so.
All right. Well, you've brought up from, the technology world now, you just brought up the hard world, right? The physical building of, let's say, a parking lot, or I'm going to pick on our friends in Toronto, but it's a bit of a sore point there, but they'll know what I'm talking about. In 1978, there was something called the Spadina subway line. It's about 17 miles of subway. And they completed that in 4 years for about $200 million. And it was completed on time, and it was beautiful from the day it opened. I think it's 13 or 14 years ago they undertook to build a brand new subway, a little longer, but same kind of project. It's still not completed. It's still not finished after 14 years. 4 years, and yet the technology available, in other words, we have above ground a radically different, a radically better way of doing all these underlining processes you're mentioning. But are they actually, I hate to say this, guys, but is it actually moving the needle below the ground, right? In other words, up here in technology land, we have these radical improvements, and I just saw Dave's reaction, like, how could that be, right? There must be other things now, of course, that project probably had very little AI involvement. But I probably would argue that, and by the way, I'll pick here in Portland, Oregon, they're talking, none of the bridges that cross the Willamette River are earthquake ready. They were all built 100 years ago. They all need to be retrofitted or completely rebuilt. The amount of money and the number of years they're quoting for how long it will take to build a bridge is wild. It took 2 years. So it took 2 years to build the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Just that, 24 months to build the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
They think one of the pyramids might have been built in 5 or 10 years with no power equipment, right? You can go on and on. In other words, it's not necessarily so that large complex projects take that much time if properly planned and so on. We seem to be having a problem executing physical things. This has been, by the way, this is going to make me a little unpopular, right? If you look at, so there's an idea in economics called productivity. And it's a magical idea because it allows you to have a better standard of living over time. It basically just simply means, it doesn't mean productivity, by the way, doesn't mean I'm working hard, I'm really productive today. That's not what productivity is. It means that for a unit of input, you have more output. That's the simple meaning. For one barrel of oil, you get more GDP. For 1 hour of labor time, you have more stuff coming out, that type of thing. Has technology over the last 40 years moved the needle in productivity in the overall economy? Are we radically more productive? And actually, we aren't. In other words, I'm sorry to say, in 1989, in 1999, in 2009, the underlying growth rate in the United States was 2.5%. GDP year over year is about 2.5%, 3% growth, representing a 2 or 3% productivity improvement, right, and some other things. In other words, that productivity growth has been relatively modest, even though, Now, will AI influence it? I don't know. And here's my, I don't think the technology is bad. That's not where I'm going with it. I think the application of it has been flawed. By the way, I'm not sure exactly why, but I think it's because of the accumulated impacts of the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
The misuse of these technologies.
All right, so we're like really over time. So let me do my little thing where, is there anything that we haven't talked about that would be a good final question for this podcast? Anything we should bring up that put a nice bow on things?
What, from what perspective? In other words, from the perspective of what people are buying or selling, or what they want to, how they want to.
You know, maybe let's finish up on telecom. What is the moonshot in that industry? What is the great hope?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I mean, I looked at it and I thought in 2000, I'm like, and I start, you start to see cloud come up 2004, 2005, and I thought telecom was the natural aggregator of cloud. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't be, delivering software, right? It would improve the utilization of bandwidth and blah, 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 but they didn't see it. They stuck to the network. So what is your outlook for telecom? And many have gone bankrupt, they come back, then there's the aggregators, but everybody's still sort of running the same,
In other words, from the standpoint of the companies that are involved?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's happening is the telecom is it's not even a term we're using that much. We don't call ourselves that. I mean, we're Technology Reseller News as opposed to Telecom Reseller. But the need to communicate person to person, real-time communications, remains basically the same, although different. I'll frame it in the terms of hope. It's my hope that the combination of cloud and CPaaS and AI and so on we may see the development of new technologies and new companies, and also the innovation at companies that exist, that will basically eliminate some of those irregularities that I was discussing. In other words, these things that have, I think, dampened productivity growth. So that I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a more this is a good example of what happened at the beginning of this call. I don't usually use Riverside. I use StreamYard. So it took me a few minutes to fool around and get it working for me. That's maybe a minor thing, but if you have a large organization and they're having thousands of Zoom calls, as we still call it, right? And you still have Joe that can't get on board and Jill whose camera's not working, that's actually a drag on productivity. Right? You're using up hundreds of hours on fooling around. Things like that may be eliminated through cloud and AI together. Right? That's sort of, I think, the big picture, right? And also where we started. We still are sort of Salesforce might be successful after all, if they can clock AI properly, right? Right? If they can deliver customers what they really have always wanted from their CRM.
Yeah, but my technical limited technical experience, it's a different platform than what they have.
Well, Grace, is this crazy to think? I've been sort of thinking a lot, and I know this is beyond telecom, but it sort of involves it. What if AI turns out to be that promise that we've had all along with the digital revolution, of having a personal companion along for the ride, that just helps you all the time, like what your boss is using it for, right?
My boss, he's my CTO.
Sorry, your CTO. Pardon me, your CTO. Right?
But he is sort of my boss. That's okay. Well,
in other words, your colleague, right? In other words, sorry I put it that way.
Now, and he's as sharp as they come.
It's not a matter of sharpness, it's a matter of time. What he's really saying is I lack the time and the ability to go and do all this research on my own. It would have occupied, or I would have had to hire somebody. So now what he's using is AI. AI is this companion.
Yeah.
AI is along for the ride, and he's training and teaching AI to do stuff.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Now, what if that gets bottled? Right? In other words, I don't even know what we're talking about right now. I don't even know if it has a name. But what if what he's doing is bottled by somebody? Coca-Cola bottled some flavored water and then everyone buys it, right?
Yeah.
What if what we're discussing gets bottled by somebody and gets organized in just the right way so that anybody can use it without even thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going. I told him he should watch the movie Her.
Yeah.
Have you read it? Have you seen the movie, Doug?
Nope, I haven't seen it.
It's an older movie. It's called Her. I think Scarlett Johansson plays the role of the computer, and it's a man who basically falls in love with a computer voice.
And,
I mean, old. I mean, I think that was like 2021 or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's not a new movie.
well, we're seeing a little bit of this. We're hearing about people actually using AI as like a companion, right? As someone to talk to in lieu of an actual someone to talk to. Okay, that's I don't know if that there's a silly sauce that happens with when technologies come that people do whatever, but the business side of this, is it possible that you're just going to have this thing with you all the time that says, "Oh, Grace, it's 10 o'clock. Here's this meeting. The last time you saw Doug, here's the context.
100% it's there.
Right?
It's this is coming out in a bottle soon.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos described it as, let's be like electricity. It'll just be like a layer over the human experience, basically.
Yeah, and it's there and all the time, and it also somehow, I know this is like the Christmas wish list, and it eliminates I think a valid economic question for everyone to think about. With this enormous investment in technology, why hasn't the overall productivity of the U.S. economy really improved in the last 40 years? It's about where it was before. There's no one has a good explanation.
I blame my doctor's office that forces me to still fax them things. That's why.
Yes.
Why?
Right.
Fat,
But it's the thing that doesn't turn on. It's the 15 minutes fiddling around with an ID, or re-logging in, or did you forget your password, or put your thumb on this thing, and on and on and on.
The soft time.
Yeah.
Or calling customer service AI, and that's more of a moat of inefficiency rather than actually something helping you.
Right.
That's where you'll see hopefully is like, actually, this could have never transpired in a positive way had AI not stepped in and done it. That's not the case right now, but I think that's the big hope, I would imagine.
To me, I mean, you see where I'm passionate about this, right? It's not that somehow we in the technology field I thought everyone's done a good job. There's some validation. Everyone went off and made some good money, right? But the one thing that hasn't been delivered in all this has been the promise of a higher standard of living across the board, right? In other words, if we look at this whole era through the scope of what happened, right? One of the reasons why there's such a political, whatever you want to call it, is there has been not a big improvement in the standard of living. The underlying cause was because productivity stalled. How could that be with all this? The possibility it might be involved. That fax thing that you're talking about might be the cause. I know it sounds funny.
It's true.
That multiplied 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
Right? That alone didn't kill your day. But think about it in big numbers.
Yeah.
How much time are we spending fooling around with email that actually is unproductive email? Right? How much time now? How are you now ignoring texts? I know I am. You get 40 texts. Would you like to buy a shirt? I don't know, whatever, right?
50 LinkedIn messages, whatever the...
Right.
No, and I have hope because I think the fragmentation story is going to help that. Because I think if we can put 500 times more software development firms out there that are taking the concentration away, because the concentration starts with one company making all the money, right? Or two companies or three companies. If we can spread that out over a new 500 companies, which I think will happen, and I get your point, they're going to just roll it all up again. That's what the office product space has done, right? They go Office Depot, and then all the independents fire up. There's 4,000, then they just acquire them all. Now there's 200, and then it happens again.
Yeah.
So that they're probably going to run their route. And in the meantime, I think there's huge opportunities for a bigger segment of people that are closer to domains that can supply really good bespoke automation that was not available before because it's too expensive. You know, the tooling wasn't there. The tools are there now to build what you need instead of buy off the shelf and try to wedge yourself into some, you know, how do you even compete if everybody's using the exact same automation? You know, you need your own custom variety of magic box tools that are going to make you stand out above your competitors.
I think in the voice world, VCons, virtual conversations, have a huge potential. We're hearing a lot about it. We're reporting a lot about VCons. And, you know, it's basically putting a conversation in a container and being able to look back, and it does things that you could never do with conversations before. And interestingly enough, it came out of the automotive industry, right? So we're also, this is the neat thing about AI, there's where the potential comes from. We're now seeing people that we've never seen in the technology world, at least in our little technology world, walk in from outside with new, fresh ideas. And they're not burdened with the experiments that we've all experienced, right? They just had a problem, which was they had agents answering the phone on behalf of car dealers. The agents were often saying incorrect things. The agents there was just no way for the agents to know if a car was available or not, or to understand Ford credit, or 1,000 different things. Here comes an AI tool that allowed them to understand what their agents were doing, not in a draconian way, but in a good way, to understand what's happening in real time and to start correcting it, to help the agent basically respond to the call with accurate information, and, you know, with good outcomes, and also to be able to look back in time and see trends and so on. So that's just the beginning, though. In other words, I think VCon is the type of thing. It's not an end point. It's like a stepping stone to this thing that Grace, you're talking about.
Well, so much great information there. I'm going to have to ice my temples after this because there just was so much great information. And Doug, thank you so much for joining us. All those decades of experience really paid off.
5,000 years.
5,000 years.
Wow, and you
Haven't
aged
aged
that
a
much.
day.
Amazing. That sunscreen, you really must just slather it.
Yeah. Just, you know, the
look
mummy
great.
stuff that you put on. They sell it at Walgreens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much. And of course, for all those watching, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for Doug Green. Thank you, Grace Schroeder, and myself. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.